Hi everyone, what's up? I'm Gregory, you are watching Not Only Code. Today I'm going to talk about soft skills for software developers. I will explain you why soft skills matter for your career as a programmer, which soft skills matter in particular, and how you can practice them. Let's start. I guess we should start with a definition. What are soft skills? But this is quite challenging because that term never got a very specific definition. For our purpose in software development, we could say that soft skills are all the skills that are useful in software development that are not directly related to building software. So in our profession, you could say that knowledge of databases, networking, frameworks or languages are all hard skills, while soft skills are related to leadership, to problem solving, to critical thinking, to teamwork, etc. Alternatively, we could think of soft skills as something that is transferable, that's something that does not depend on your job, on your industry. Soft skills can be applied in basically all the jobs, while hard skills are specific to your profession or to your domain. Soft skills are becoming more and more important in software industry, and yet I believe that they are still quite underestimated. Years ago, software was much simpler. A lot of applications written in the 90s were created by a team of 2 or 3 people. Today we still have indie hackers and we have side projects, but at work usually we are part of larger teams. Some of us work for startups, some of us work for corporations where we have thousands of developers building a single platform. And while we still deal with tons of technical problems, we also have a number of social problems or teamwork problems to solve. In this world where communication accounts for a large part of our work, the self-awareness and understanding how we can better communicate with other people, how we can motivate them, how we can help the whole team or even the whole department achieve certain goals is critical, and it can really improve your career. On the other hand, programmers who ignore the social skills, who ignore the teamwork skills, who just want to work alone and write code and ignore all the other people around can be often considered toxic. And even if they're technically good, even if they're technically brilliant, they might have problems with progressing in their career just because they focus only on this one technical area of work and they ignore the broader perspective of what they are building. Even if you don't want to ever become a tech lead or a manager, and if you never want to deal with the people problems, if you never want to do mentoring, soft skills will be a game changer for you. Even as mid-level or senior developers, we participate in certain discussions, we need to understand the problems that other teams bring to us, we need to convince people to the solutions that we come up with. So now let me tell you about 5 skills that are critical for software developers and that if you learn them will be a huge booster for your career. Number 1, problem solving. We might think of problem solving as a technical skill, as a hard skill, because usually the problems that we solve are solved with software. So we need to find a technical solution to the problem that we are solving. But that's not always the case. I would say that even more than half of the problems that are being solved by senior or lead developers are broader than just the technical part. Sometimes you might be facing a problem like how do we speed up our website, and the solutions that come to your mind are like, okay, let's use caching, let's use some compression. But maybe the best solution and the most obvious solution is let's just stop rendering video in the background and just use an image instead. So people who are great at problem solving, when they face certain problem, first they will analyze, they will try to understand the root cause, they will try to understand the intention behind certain features, certain opportunity. Then they will use their creativity to come up with a number of solutions. And then using critical thinking, they will analyze each of the solutions and they will choose the most feasible one, considering different constraints like the deadlines, the number of people available, etc. Number 2, adaptability and flexibility. I'm putting them together here because I think that they are very related. The way we write software changes constantly. Even if you use the same language and same framework, suddenly instead of 10 people in your department, you may have 50, and you need to change the processes, you need to change certain rules so that they scale together with the team. The complexity of the work that we do is changing. The context, the business context that we are in is also changing. Our companies might be pivoting, might be shifting priorities, they might be changing very dynamically. In order to live with that and to stay on top of it, we need to adapt to the new circumstances, and we need to be flexible with how we work. As software developers, we often enjoy staying in our comfort zone and just sticking to the tools, to the ways that worked for us until now. I mean, I've learned Vim 15 years ago and I still use it as my main editor. However, often in order to progress, we just need to learn how to adapt to the new situation. I learned it the hard way when I worked in a very young and dynamic startup, where sometimes we started working on some big feature just to be told 2 days later that we should drop it and switch to something else. For me, it was very hard. My attitude was, let's stick to the plan. But I didn't really understand that sometimes this plan wasn't the best. It was just a fallback. And now a new business opportunity happened, and we should focus all our attention to that because that's a higher gain and a lower risk opportunity. Number 3, planning and productivity. Software developers need to optimize their time for long blocks of deep focus. If you want to work on some big feature, you need to book 3 to 4 hours so that you can focus, so that you can understand the problem, so that you can spend some time figuring out how to actually solve it. Every interruption may just draw you out of focus and it might be a waste of your time. Unfortunately, it's not easy to avoid those interruptions, especially if you work in an environment where a lot of people depend on your knowledge and may need your help. You might have other developers coming to you with questions about certain tasks. You might have product manager, you might have your engineering manager coming with some questions about the part of the system that you know better than they do. Because of that, it is very important that you know how to optimize your time, that you can plan your week or even your day accordingly, and that you can actually remove all the distractions so that you can get into the zone as quickly as possible, and so that you can spend a few hours in a row working on the problem that you are trying to solve. A couple of weeks ago, I made a whole video where I give a couple of tips related to productivity for software developers. The link should be somewhere in the corner of this video. You should check it out and see whether you already follow the good practices about being a productive developer. Number 4, teamwork. Even if you are a sole developer in your company, you still work with other people. You might have a product manager, you might have a designer, you might have a data scientist working with you. And as a team, you have some common goals. And as a team, you need to figure out the best way to achieve these goals. The fact that we work in a team has a lot of benefits, like we can achieve much more when we work together. However, we have a certain overhead, there is a lot of communications, there is a lot of time spent on things that are not writing code, that are not building product. For a lot of people, that experience is frustrating, but teamwork is actually a critical thing, and knowing how to talk to your teammates, how to discuss certain solutions with them, and how to sacrifice some little things that you don't really care about so that you can get faster to the goal is very important. Good teammates ensure that good work is noticed. They know when to praise their colleagues, they know how to give a positive but also negative feedback, they know how to talk to people so that people do not get angry at each other, they do not agitate each other, but instead they improve each other and help the whole team to move forward. Number 5, listening. It is often said that a lot of us listen with replying as a goal, while in reality the goal of listening should be to understand the other side. And I think that's critical for software developers, especially if you work with people who have different backgrounds, who are not programmers, who do not have the knowledge that you do have. We often have this attitude that when we just hear about the problem, we already have a solution in mind. Someone says, oh, this part is slow, and you think just use MongoDB or just use caching. But we do not know. Maybe the other side already tried or considered that option. So listening, not only to understand the problem, but also what the other side have already considered, what they already tried, and why certain options didn't work. This is very important, and if you only can talk to other people and listen and focus on understanding and on helping them, instead of just trying to prove that you know the solution, that you have a good advice, then you will get much further. And this will be really appreciated by your teammates, but also everyone who works with you. And I would say that good listeners are people who do not necessarily have good answers, but who have good questions. So it will often happen that you do not know the solution to someone else's problem, but by pointing to some part that they haven't considered, by just asking a good question, you can help them to figure out that solution yourself. And now let's talk about practicing soft skills. This is pretty difficult part. When you want to learn how to code, you can just download some tutorials, you can install the programming language on your computer and give it a try. And every time you see the output, you immediately see whether your code worked or not. Sometimes it's a matter of a second or less. With soft skills, it's not that easy, especially that a lot of them depend on interaction with other people. Therefore, the feedback loop is longer, the opportunities are more scarce, and if you really screw up, that might hurt your relationship with other people. However, it's definitely possible to practice soft skills. So I would say that in order to do that, you need a couple of things. First, decide which soft skill you want to focus on. Do not take 5 or 10 of them at the same time. Just first focus on one. Second, gain some theoretical knowledge about it. Read some books, some blog posts, watch some videos, maybe talk to some people, understand what is the base of this skill and what people who are good at this are doing. What are their habits, what are their behaviors? Third, find people that can give you some feedback. For example, your teammates or your manager can help you to find out whether you actually are good at this skill or not, and they observe your conversation with other people, so then they can give you feedback. They can tell you whether you could have done something better or whether you actually did it well. Fourth, start tracking this. Just make sure that whenever something goes well, you just note it. Whenever you believe that something could have been handled better, you also write it down so that you can see your progress and so that you can go back to this and see how far you have gone. And fifth, remember that practice will make you better. Sometimes you are starting from a very, very low level. You might not be a good teammate. You might not be good at time management. Your goal is to improve. So you need to be receptive to feedback. If you have people around you that you trust, then you need to believe that whatever feedback they give you, they have your good in mind. They want to help you. And on the other hand, don't be too harsh on yourself. Sometimes we all screw up. Sometimes we say something that we regret. We're not perfect. So just remember not to repeat that behavior and move on. And that's it for today, folks. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Remember to like it and to subscribe to my channel. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to release a similar episode where I will focus on skills for tech leads, for engineering managers, for team leaders. And in the meantime, check out my other videos where I already covered a little bit on such topics. Take care.